authors, writers, books, and beyond.
Hi, welcome back to the second show of Authors, Writers, Books, and Beyond. We are so happy to have you back with us after our pilot show last November. My name is Kathy Boyd-Fuller. I'm a local children's author, and I'd like to introduce you this evening to my roundtable guests. On my right is the lovely Donna Plant. She is an artist and illustrator and the illustrator for my children's books. Welcome, Donna. And on my left, Betty Ruth Weatherby. She has brought her children's books, the Pepper series. She's also a member of Amateur Fiction Writers. And the lovely Sarah Lunsford, journalist and author. She writes for the local Sierra Lodestar.
Yes.
And her books are online.
Yes.
Can you tell them about them?
Well, I have two books actually online right now. One is a daily devotional, 30 days of stories of an everyday walk with God, actually. And the other is a paranormal, spiritual, young adult book.
And how's that doing, the YA book?
It's doing pretty well. It's a little slow. You know, the trajectory is a little slow to take off, but, you know, I sell a little here, a little there, and actually Barnes & Noble seems to be the place where people are actually buying it.
Oh, that's really good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, today, the four of us are going to talk about writing history into our children's books, and then I would also like Sarah to share about her devotionals, and Betty has a series of books for grown-ups too about World War II that I have had the privilege to critique. They're wonderful stories. So to get us going, first I would actually like to go back to Sarah and have you fill us in on your devotionals.
Well, my devotionals sort of sprung out of the reality that we can hear and walk with God in the everyday. I think sometimes we want to go to the mountaintop, or we want to go out to the fields or wherever and sort of listen for the Lord, but many times He just talks to us in our everyday lives, whether we're doing laundry, whether we're out driving the car. You know, if we just sort of listen for Him and constantly sort of be in communication with Him, be in His Word, He talks to us anywhere. And that's basically, these are little vignettes, little snapshots of how this has happened in my life and in other people I know, their lives as well.
Yeah, I think all three of us can relate to that.
Definitely.
Very much.
Can you get this application maybe on your iPhone or something like that?
Well, it's available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes & Noble and Kobo as well. And they all have apps that you can actually download it onto your iPhone or Android phone or Kindle or whatever your device is.
Wonderful.
So, yes.
And Betty, what about your books?
Well, historically speaking, my children's books are about my little dog Pepper, and they're things that have actually happened. Pepper died 3 years ago, and I had him 15 and a half years, and I loved him so dearly. And when I had Pepper, I lived with my mom and dad and took care of my mother for a number of years, and my brother was there with his two children. So this is an actual picture here of when Dad was asleep in the living room and Pepper was right here. Well, and you see in the windows the little rat. This is a true story. He chases a rat and gets stuck into a pipe. And I never got him out. I had to lean over the pipe with a piece of steak and dawdle it. And it was dark by then. And to get him out of the pipe. And then this one is about a time that Pepper heard something on the front porch, and he woke me up into bed. And I went and let him out the front door, thinking he just needed to go out. And there was a skunk on the front porch into his food. And so he thought it was a cat. He'd never seen a skunk. And he tried to push the skunk off the porch with his nose. And, of course, then you know what the skunk did. And it skunked him. And we couldn't sleep. The burn, I tried everything to wash it off. And he ended up going to my son's house, and my grandkids kept him for the rest of the week. And they bathed him every day in special skunk stuff. So that's what that one's about. And this one is about my brother Richard. In the old days, you'd have to take your garbage to the dump on yourself. So Pepper, he went to the dump with my brother Richard and his boy Josh. And Josh works in San Andreas down at the water and sewage plant. And I gave him this gift because during the episode, Pepper ran off chasing some turkeys and got lost. And they had to find him. And
Lost at the dump.
Yeah, at the dump. They had just quite a time there. This is took Pepper to Dillon's Beach. And Dillon Beach is over by Point Reyes. And I thought he would have a great time. The dogs are there chasing the waves, but no, he hated them. He didn't like the waves, and he hid most of the time. But it is a funny story about him going by the giant elephant rocks and all. This is when we went to the Dinosaur National Monument, and so he's in this story. This story is a lie. Because there's no dogs allowed. So we made up a story that he snuck in the door. And he found that place, it's Vernal, Utah. It's an amazing place to take your kids. And he found a giant fossil bone. It was from here to the ceiling. And so there's a picture in there of him seeing that bone.
Happy dog.
His mouth drooling and he's just having a great time. But those are my children's books. And then my novels here, I'm working on a series of World War II. Charlotte here, she belongs to a family that lives in West Africa, and I've done short-term mission trips there. So everything that I see, I kind of write into the story, but the stories are not real. Her family is all murdered by Nazis, by marauders, soldiers, and she stows away on a ship to come home to America. This one is about her mother who survives the attack. Then she comes home on a military hospital ship. And all my research, I got all my books at Hine & Company downstairs. And they have a whole section on World War II. And so that's full of stories. And she brought an African-American girl home with her. And that book will be coming out in about 3 more months.
And can you say her name?
Right.
Oh, her name is Shingi.
Stingy.
Yeah, and that will be coming out soon. But these are like historical fiction, World War II, and then these are true, except for you know what. Yeah. So
okay. Thank you, Betty. I so enjoyed watching. Oh, and you know what? I really would like you to say who your illustrator is.
Oh, I'm sorry. My illustrator is my daughter, Colleen Nestral, and she lives in. I thought I had it on one of those books. Yeah, it's on this one. Oh, it's not. But Colleen Nestral's my daughter. And then when each book I'll say starring Grandma Betty or starring Melissa and Mikey, my grandkids. They each have my different grandkids in there.
So you have a combination of nonfiction that you have presented as nonfiction, or you fictionalized nonfiction.
Right, yeah. Right, and I'm a retired school teacher, so in the back I have a teacher page with new vocabulary and things like that. Because I remember we had to teach, besides kids learning to read, they have to learn new words.
Well, that's kind of going to bring me back to Donna, because as I mentioned originally, Donna, I was just so blessed by another writer in our group, Joe Sardi, lived next door to her when I was looking for an illustrator for the last 3 of my 4-book series. So Donna has illustrated 3 of the 4 Blake Sisters Lake Tahoe stories, and I asked her to come and show you her original art, which is in these books. It's not. These are illustrated storybooks. They're not picture books. Right. A lot of Kathy words and a lot of Donna art. So I'd like you to all open the books as you show them your original art.
Okay. All right. As we work through the books and the art, Kathy would tell me, okay, these are being set in Tahoe and they're real places. So my husband and I actually went up and did a little research. But the bridge that the little girls leaned over in her book, that is really part of Tahoe. I made it as authentic as possible and then had fun with the kids.
That's Fanny Bridge in Tahoe City.
Yes.
80-something years.
And then as we did the story, Kathy had the grandparents. Her main story is the children staying with the grandparents. And they went around the lake. So as they went around the lake, each illustration had to depict correctly the type of beach that was in that area, the mountains that were behind. It had to look real, even though the little girl wasn't there sliding in the water, but So we
that
tried to
is
keep it as real as possible.
Sand Harbor on the
Yes.
Nevada side.
Yes.
And so you have drawn all 4 shores of Lake Tahoe
Yes.
in circa 1959 to 1969.
69, right. And one of the special parts about this is Kathy has an original home or cabin that the books are set at, and it's how old?
My grandparents broke ground on Pearl Harbor Day, December 7th, 1941. They're original land leasers from the U.S. government before you could outright buy. And so
what we did was we actually made the illustrations as true as possible to the home and the location and the lake again.
photographs.
Yes.
I gave her a lot of my papa's photographs. And so, I love the baby. Show the baby real quick before we go.
All right, baby, real quick.
The end of the
She
book.
is not an authentic baby from Lake Tahoe. She is a baby from my mind.
Thus, the creativity involved in writing and illustrating children's books. So,
Yes.
we are going to take a break, and we will come back. If you're interested, join us. We have more to share with you. Thank you.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hi, welcome back. Glad you could come and join us again. You just missed some very interesting sharing from Donna Plant, a local artist and illustrator. And I'd like to go back to Donna and finish and have her share a little bit more. I'm going to hold up. This is the first book that Donna illustrated for me. It's kind of one of our favorites, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Snowman Ate Our Picnic Lunch. And I brought this. I don't want to shake it. This is a snow globe. And this photograph is a historic photograph from 1967. And the story I wrote was simply from looking at this photograph. I wasn't present with my Nana and my sisters that day. I just made up the story from looking at it. And then I went to Donna and said, guess what you get to draw? The rest of the story. And I have to show you her creation of her snowman.
This was fun because I created the snowman and Kathy looked at it and went, those look like fingers. So then she started thinking, and she started doing a little bit of the story around the fact that the snowman had fingers. So
yeah, it's interesting. The original draft I give her, I only had a gingerbread gentleman in it. And then she said, ooh, would you consider a lady, gingerbread lady? And so she did the pearls, and the little apron, which was so Nana. My Nana has aprons in my stories. And so I call her the Nana gingerbread lady, but she looks like Donna to me. So I'd like you
she has longer eyelashes.
I love that, her eyelashes and pearls. She has little pearls on. So could you share a little about the medium you use for your art?
Sure, no problem. I was telling the ladies that years ago, I'm thinking probably back in the 1970s, 80s, I was trying to basically break into the illustrating department at Mervyn's and had a mentor that taught me this technique. And especially when she brought a book with snow, that's what really made me think of it. The technique is basically using a very strong tracing paper or vellum paper, and you do your ink pen illustration on the back, so you have a basic color behind it. But then you go on to the front, and on the front you do your pastels or your chalk. And what it does, and what it did do, as you can see on the book, it just made everything pop. I think you can see on the snow. It also allows me to do very intricate work. I'm one of those people that everything's supposed to be perfect. So with this technique, I can go and make the little teeny faces, and I can do all of my exact little stuff. So it worked well for the books.
And you are vice president with the Amateur Arts Council?
Yes, I served. It was kind of interesting. They talked me into being vice president 3 years ago, and the vice president became sick. So the first meeting in January, I was acting president for that year. I was president the next year, and this year I get to let my wonderful Vice President Judy Day become president, and I get to sit back.
More time to draw.
You got it.
I was hoping by asking Donna for our audience to really see, and especially Betty also works with her own daughter, Colleen, who works with another one of our writers, Joe Sardi. It's a real interwoven partnership.
Yes.
It isn't just an author's book. The book belongs to the author and the artist. We share. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when Donna and I do a book signing together, I don't like to sign on this page until she does first. Sometimes I go alone, but out of respect to my illustrator, I will wait till she picks her spot and then I'll sign. That's just my respect for her art. And I think that spills over even like Sarah with what you do at the paper. I love her columns in the Lodestar. You had a great one this week on the ski places.
The ski resorts,
Can you
yes.
speak a little about that?
Well, it's various topics actually that we choose. We get together as in typical newspapers. We get together in editorial meetings and come up with our topics. But the art is very, very important. And I'm a text person. I write. I'm the writer. And then what I have to do is say to my editor, we have to go, you have to go, and you have to get really good photographs of all these different great locations. So we have some writers on staff like Dean Fleming, who's the sort of the mountain climbing guy, but he's also a fabulous photographer. So he gets sent out to do some of the illustration work as well. So the illustration actually tells the story along with the words, and it amplifies it, and it gives it a texture you wouldn't normally have.
That's right.
So, and you do have to work very closely together, or else it's a little disjointed.
It shows otherwise.
Right, absolutely.
One reason why, again, with the photograph, history is photographically preserved for us, not just in word, but also photographically. And a lot of the research that Donna and I do, I'll give her some family photographs or of the area, or she'll look them up online. Same thing with your photographer. It's part of the storytelling.
It is, absolutely.
It's part of the storytelling. And if you look at the cover of Betty's book, she's mixed, her daughter has mixed the photography with the art.
What I've done here is on the pages where the Pepper's in a room and there's a picture on the wall, the picture is a true picture. And like this picture is my little grandson Mikey, and there's a T-Rex behind him. Of course, it's not real. But and then I told Mikey to look scared. He looked real scared, and it made a great picture. And when we got home, I blew it up into a picture for his bedroom. So
Nice.
all through that, I kind of did that. On the next page, I can't remember if it's a T-Rex or not. Yeah, it's a T-Rex also, but that's a lot of fun to do.
It's a real creative vent for us. And as Sarah said, working with a photographer, I do a lot of freelance photography. It's another form of art and expression. And when you're looking through that lens, you're the artist that sees the world different than everyone else. Just like Donna, even though I gave her photographs, these are not copies. These are her interpretation, where she took creative license. And other than leaving my sister Sean and I with our original pixie cuts, which my sister was mortified, it's just an adventure, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, I look forward to Sarah's articles in the Lodestar. My granddaughter is visiting, so I'm hoping to, get McKenna your book. And The Knife's Edge?
The Knife's Edge,
Can
that's
you
my young adult book.
Can you speak a little about that?
Well, it's a paranormal book where a young girl, she's about to turn 16, and she gets an inheritance gift from her grandfather, which is a knife set, and she thinks it's just it turns out to be a knife set, but on the top it's just a sterling silver cutlery set. And through the book, she finds out more about her grandfather, how spiritually aware he was, that he was a Native American believer in Christ, and that sort of sets the tone for the book. And the knives, they all have different purposes, which she has to learn. And this is the first of a series of books. And it is actually set here in the Mother Lode in current times, but because of a history class she's in, she goes to Columbia State Park. So the history of the area ends up being woven into the story, which is wonderful. And so you end up, it was kind of fun to write because I ended up writing on 2 different timelines. You know, you write on the timeline that we're in, and then you get to fold in the other timelines because she has visions, and those sort of incorporate the history of the area. Yeah.
That's a wonderful way to preserve it because our history is in a little jeopardy of being altered.
Yes.
So the better we can, the more we can do to preserve it accurately.
Yes.
Is a blessing.
My granddaughter is 14. Would that be all right for her?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's Lizzie. I'll have to get that for Lizzie.
Yeah, and I think McKenna's almost 18, so I think you've got kind of a wide range there with the YA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see these kind of things coming out, and especially you're preserving the history of the county. You're from here, right?
No, actually, I moved here about 15 years ago.
Okay, same time as me.
Okay,
yeah.
But you know, if you write stories up here, features, you're going to hit on historical aspects of the area.
All the time.
Absolutely.
Well,
And Betty's from Calaveras County.
yeah.
You
Wait,
have
when
a deep history.
when I grew up coming to Jackson, it took an hour to get here from San Andres.
Oh
And
my
it was a
gosh.
little bitty, windy road, and we'd get sick as a dog. So we never liked coming to Jackson.
Is it the same road that is now Highway 49?
Basically, but there are parts where it's different, and you'll see the old road next to the new road.
Your new road, like a
And it'll be
frontage
less
road.
curvy. Yeah, that's very different now.
Got it.
Yeah, that's just like the Tahoe stories. I was born in 55, and I'm preserving that period of history is not the history of today there at all. It's a very different history today. This is the European time when there was not the population on the mountain there is now. It's a very different Tahoe now. And there are no electronics in here. There aren't any. I don't even have TV, even though they had TV. They just didn't. Everyone was outside playing, and, and exploring and swimming and enjoying the bounty of that mountain, the majesty of it. And so I before we go to our next break, I would like to ask Donna one more thing about the Arts Council. If you could just share real briefly what they do in the area.
Oh my goodness, the Art Council is wonderful. Number one, we have great people that laugh and have a great time together, and they never take each other too seriously. Then we do the art that you see at the fair each year. We're in charge of all of that, so the whole thing is put on by the Art Council. We do. Oh gosh, I'm going to have senior moments just because you put me on the spot.
I'm sorry.
We also do contests for a number of schools, different ages, and give them scholarships.
Which is
There's
wonderful.
so much that we do. It's the whole concept of the Art Association is to promote the arts here in this county.
In the county.
So in every way, and there's money that goes towards that end, not just to us. In fact, nothing goes to us.
Volunteer.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies. We have half of our show left. We're going to be sharing some more about writing history into our books and our experience. Thank you. Come back.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hi, welcome back to Authors, Writers, Books, and Beyond. By the way, I need to give you a little insight to our Books and Beyond. That's a little play on a store we used to have downtown here called Books and Beyond. I used to live there when we first moved here 15 years ago. And kind of nice to mention it in the title. So we're going to get back to books and authors and writing. And Donna is going to talk a little about, we have the Stinky Boys on top here now. They were in the first book, and we brought them back in this. Bear Cub is actually the third, the autumn book. And you want to tell them about the research for the
Oh my goodness.
uniforms.
The uniforms of the Boy Scouts are not the same now as they were back then, and this ended up being at a time period when they were actually changing the uniforms. So it was quite a project to go and do the research and find the uniforms and all of that and get it right. So, but we wanted to make it right.
Yeah, and there's an Airstream in there, which also historically, is the time frame for that era. And on the cover here, I interviewed a park ranger up in the north side, on the California side, and we had to reverse the cover to be legal. That's all I'm going to say. Because of the time frame, it was the Sugar Pine Point State Park used to be across the street at the lake, and then it switched. And so you have to have all your facts correct. And it was he was a fountain of information. I had all these books have a teaching page in the back, and I had one fact wrong that you may all be able to relate to. The bears hibernating. I did not know bears could hibernate up in hollow trees. Way, way up in the hollow trees. I thought they were all on the ground in caves. So he corrected back, and then they call it estivation, not hibernation. And Tahoe bears have had the last few years have been interesting. The history in this book is late 60s, so it's more in tune with during that time. But here Donna she always does a final picture next to the, I call it the teaching page. Every book has a different one for different season. And so, as we were discussing during our break, the fact that these do not have electronics or iPods, I don't even know what they're all called, Xbox, because they didn't then. I didn't know what those were. I didn't grow up with them. The kids today have all those things that the kids from this time frame was sci-fi. It was sci-fi time.
One of your books, Nana's Buttons, was waiting for a baby to be born.
Yeah.
And in today's world, I could see all the kids sitting at Grandma and Grandpa's house watching TV, playing on their little, that's not an Xbox, but whatever you call it, iPods, iPods or what have you. And in here, they didn't. They did everything else. They went around the lake. They made little necklaces out of buttons.
From the Nana's tin.
Yeah.
Because you had to wait. You didn't know what the baby was. And in the story, loosely based on my sisters, they were waiting for the seventh sister. And it was a baby girl, as you could tell by Donna's illustration. Big surprise. Wasn't a boy. The only boys in these books so far are the Stinky Boys. And so I'd like to ask
Stinky Boys.
Yeah, Stinky Boys. The grown-up, nice ones, earning their hiking badge. What kind of research? I know you write your books based on Dillon Beach, where your family went, and also the dinosaur monument.
What kind of research do I do?
Yeah, like the bone.
Mostly, these are our memories. And if I can't remember something that I know I want in the book, I can't remember all the details, I just call my family and ask them. And I wanted to say what you were talking about, Kathy, on the things that kids don't know nowadays. When I was teaching second grade, I talked to the kids about it one day. We used to play games like kick the can, and then we'd play, of course, hide and seek, but we climbed trees all the time. I mean, I lived up in the trees. And when I told my little second graders that, they were just mortified. Who would ever climb up in a tree? How did you do that? And we had like forts up in the tree and lookouts that go to the top of the tree. And we did all kinds of things like that kids nowadays, they don't, I think they're missing out, But when you tell them about it, they're just like mortified, like I said. But anyway, I do want to speak. The history books, I use Ernie Pyle. I read every book he's ever written for World War II. He was right in the trenches with the men, the boys, and so his stuff is very authentic. And I have huge books from Life magazine. Every picture they have made, it's in a massive book. And I have, I think, Collier's. I have several great big books that are all pictures and stories of World War II. And also I have one of my best historical information is it's like an encyclopedia of World War II. It's like 20 volumes, big books.
Wow.
It even has the bad guys, the Nazis, what happened to them and what they thought about this and that, and the Japanese. It has every angle of the stories.
Lots of research.
Yeah, and then now you can actually get on the internet in modern times, and you can look up these people's names, and they'll have like blogs like you do. Of course, they're dying off, but they'll have the actual things of what they did. And I use that information, especially on the Ship of Mercy, because it's on a military hospital ship. And an interesting thing I found out about those is that they ran out of names for them. They were compassion, mercy, those kind of names. Well, then they started running out of those words, and so they started using flower names
Instead.
for names of the hospital ships. And the United States never had any hospital ships, military hospital ships, that were sunk, but other nations did. And you can actually find the nation, how many they had, and how many got sunk, and
Interesting.
yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, it
I
is.
find it interesting.
And the U-boats would go around the hospital ship because the reason for this picture is they would have lights on them at night, and they did not have to zigzag like the other ships in World War II. They could go straight, and they were all lit up so that it was known that they were identified. That's right, that's the word. And the U-boats would go around them slowly. And I even read of one incident where they made them stop and they boarded them to make sure.
That's what they really were.
That they really were a hospital ship.
Different world.
Oh,
Different
yeah.
time
I don't think they would give the respect to a hospital ship now,
that they had.
you know,
then.
that they had then.
They are different times.
It is
and you know,
different.
that kind of brings me
Right.
back to you. Our books are case wrapper, hardcover, and softcover. Can you speak a little about how yours are different? Yours are,
As far as the digital format?
yes, the digital format.
Well, I mean, basically, it's kind of a formatting difference. Essentially, you have to font it correctly. You have to have the correct points. You have to. I mean, I have covers for my books, so it's actually a graphic artist that I go to, Valerie
Okay.
Davidson over in Calaveras County, and she does a phenomenal job. But it is digital. So what happens when we're working on the artwork for my covers, I will tell her, I want curly cues, I want this font, I want this image, and she will work something out, send it to me, and then I'll look at it and go, that's not quite what I was thinking. So then I go back and I tell her, can you tweak this a little bit? Can you do that? So it's a little bit different than allowing someone to have free artistic reign, but it works for us. And then there are sometimes, I'm working on another young adult book based on the 7 Deadly Sins called 7, and that was a very simple cover. I wanted her to do the cover before I actually finished the book. But that was just basically a 7 with
The number 7.
a number 7 with a
Okay.
wash of red behind it.
Oh, okay.
So that was a very simple cover to actually design, but it's all digital. It's all, zeros and ones. It's all written in code, but I don't do the code, thank goodness, But back years ago, you would have to know code to do all this stuff. And that's part of the sort of the digital age coming into publishing, too, is that you can use what other people have built on to actually get your books out. And it's an accepted medium now.
Yes, it
whereas
is.
It wasn't even a few years ago. So
Actually, Betty, your books are also in ebook form, as are mine.
Yes.
But we came out, I think, softcover. Mine came out softcover first in the case wrap last year. And so your books sell just as well digitally as
they
our.
seem to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of noticed ours, the soft covers are the big sellers. And the ebooks are just now catching up. I don't know about you.
My sister-in-law said she wants to hold it in her hand. She does all my, she's my reader. After everything's done and my editors are done, then she reads everything from front to back. She said, I have to hold it in my hand.
Yeah, there is a nice feel to it, and the older books, there is these books behind us here. They have a smell to them
They
too
do.
that I like. But it is we were discussing this when we were here earlier, before showtime. The change in publishing is dramatic, which we're going to get to a little bit more when we come back. And I want to mention a little about the critique group that we're local out of Amador County, Amador Writers Group, and we meet at Clark's Corner. They are what we call our literary home there in Ione, either in the banquet room if they're busy in the front or back there. And a lot of our books are critiqued there and kind of birthed out of there.
Great coffee.
Yes, with coffee. And they have more than coffee. They have, we get lunch there too, and
Good pastries.
yes, they have good pastries, and it's kind of a community hub that Ione didn't have before. We didn't have anything like that. So we used to meet in the very middle with all these easy chairs, and then we've kind of grown and kind of changed our format and have smaller groups now, but enjoy meeting, having a place like that, a home like that, where I think even back in the old days, they all had their little hub. Most writers do.
What's
And
wonderful about Clark's Corner, though, is that they have the tables with the old
Photographs.
photographs
Oh, yes.
underneath.
Preserving history.
Speak of history.
And it is, you go in there and you go, oh, wow, look at all these photographs.
And the branding wall in the back, where all the local ranchers came. They had a day that they all put their brand in the wall. I love the history of it. The old oak ice box in the corner, where our books are for sale. If any of us want to sell them, they are for sale there. You can buy them there. You're most welcome to go in. And so I just enjoy having that. We're 5 years long in our group now, and it's been a wonderful experience. So we're going to take another break, and I do hope you come back and learn a little bit more about publishing and get to know the ladies a little better. Thank you so much for joining us the first of this year. We'll be here one day a month all year.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Hi, and welcome back again. I'm so glad you came and are continuing on with us. I actually would think you'd be interested to hear a little bit more from Sarah. I would like her to talk a little bit about, we were talking about being young and old dinosaurs during the break. Sarah's a young one, and she has this natural gift working with the computers that is not as natural for the three of us. Can you share a little about that?
Well, what we were discussing was formatting for digital books, and I was saying that I am actually a young dinosaur in the digital age, and because of that, I went on the internet in the late 80s and early 90s. I was daisy chaining the modem to the computer and, tying up my parents' phone line and the whole thing, which, is unheard of now. Everybody either has two lines or they have a Wi-Fi system or they're sort of more advanced than I was back then. But the thing is it becomes intuitive. Working with the computer, working with a Word document, working with a text document or a text file, it becomes intuitive, so you can't really explain how it's done to someone else, you just do it. It becomes an extension of yourself.
And so you're not intimidated by it or fearful of it?
No, not at all.
I think that's important.
But I think that's how it is in anything, with writing, with research.
That's very true.
You can't be afraid to go into the archives and go, I'm researching this sheriff, and I don't know about him at all. Can you give me any information? Or go to the library. I have a 14-year-old son who has to do research papers, and he always wants to go to the internet, and I keep on telling him, the library is your best friend. And
so true.
You go to the historical sections in the libraries, you can get out all the books, the annuals of Tuolumne County, the Amador County histories. It's fabulous, and you go through them, and all the information is there. So it's just a matter of knowing where to go and not being afraid to do it.
Sarah, I don't understand. I know if I do email and I send it, it goes to the other person, but if you're doing, say you're doing a book and you're doing a little bit every few days, how do you get that? You don't email it. How do you get that out in the air?
Well, what they do is they have, I call them meat grinder programs, like Amazon. Amazon and Barnes & Noble are sort of the easiest ones to upload your file. And they essentially, you just drag and drop. You just upload it. And they, how do I say, it uploads, and then you take a look at it to see if there's major spaces, and there's tab. There's all sorts of detail.
But you go through it and check it.
You go through and check
upload it.
Yes, and then if it's not to your liking, you can pull it off. Go back to your copy that you've been working on and start tweaking it so that it works.
Oh wow.
So, and that's sort of, that's kind of the hardest part, I think, it's harder than writing the story.
Yeah, reviewing it and reviewing it. Yeah, okay.
And now you blog.
I blog, and I've been blogging for few years now.
Few years. And you also, I kind of like to have you go into a little bit more about that with your devotionals.
Okay. The blogs were actually the basis of the You Said It and I Believe It devotional book, and which are everyday stories from a everyday walk with God, essentially, is what it was about. And I just started it because I thought, a lot of people, like I said earlier, they want to go off to the mountains and they want to, go off to the side of the river, or they want to. But the reality is that the Lord's with you no matter where you are. And you can hear Him and talk to Him and share this fabulous relationship that He's provided for us with Him at any given time. So these are just stories from my life and from other people's lives, or sometimes, like in the fall, the changing of the colors. What happens is in the leaves, the chlorophyll, the green actually it dissipates. I can't give you the scientific terms for it, but it sort of dissipates, and then you get these wonderful colors. But the colors are hidden until that sort of destructive process of the chlorophyll happens. So, you can look at that and kind of look at our lives that way. We look green and fresh and springy, and then our lives sort of happen to us. And then what happens is through these sort of what we would consider negative processes, these beautiful colors come out of us, and the Lord provides these opportunities for us. So that's sort of what the blog is about,
That's
just
a lovely
those sorts
analogy.
of stories.
But still, how do you do a blog? I mean, do you upload it or what?
Well, you can write it right on there. Actually, I use WordPress, which is a very, very easy blogging platform.
But is it like having your own, what's that word?
Word processor?
Website?
Website, yeah. Is it like having your own website?
Well, a website would be different. There's a free WordPress blogging platform that's very easy to use.
I use it, Betty.
Okay.
I have WordPress too.
And it's very much like going in, if you use Microsoft Word, it's like going into Microsoft Word. You go to the page where it says post a new post, and it's right there, and all the little icons at the top where you would do font formatting, paragraph formatting, those are all the same as Microsoft Word, and you just write. And then you make your corrections, and a little button over here says post or update,
and you just hit it.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's different from a website. I wouldn't go to the website side of it, but a WordPress, the free, I guess it's WordPress.org, is a very simple blogging platform, and that's where I got started.
That's my blog is on there, and I use my photography with it.
Yes, see, you can upload your media.
And then I write my story around the photograph.
Then when it's like you want, then you press it.
Just pushing it, and it goes out there. And you can actually link it to your Facebook page or your website. You can link it up.
Yeah.
It's
It's
actually
just
a way
like
to
saying a thought for today or something like that.
Yeah, it's just like what we used to call slice of life, I think.
Yes.
Or with a devotional, same thing, incorporating it spiritually to how God's working in your life.
So if somebody wants to see that blog, are they like subscribers, like on Facebook or what?
You get followers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I would just go to that, to whatever the address is.
Which is mine is sarahlunsford.com.
And that would be where I would go.
That's where you'd go.
Yeah, my log is same thing, kathyboydfuller.com.
Okay.
That's another form of expression. I don't know if you use it in the art world.
No, I'm sitting here with her going, okay.
See, but you could scan your photos in and then put it on your
Same as the
That's
photography.
true. That's true.
Same as the photography. Well, I just,
That's kind of like when I go on vacation and throw
that's
pictures.
exactly what it is. It's actually pretty easy. That's why I can do it. It's pretty basic.
Well, it's amazing how easy it is nowadays. Years ago I wouldn't have attempted it. But now it's very user friendly.
I will tell you, the first time figuring out how to get my photo on, I ended up with 3 of them. I learned real quick how to delete 2 and go with 1. So it's pretty easy, and it gets out more of what you're working on. I think we all have a mission in our writing and in our art. Donna and I think we're on the same mission. My books are family oriented. To show that that's all the family needs as a strong family unit. The father is a very strong character. He is not stupid. He is actually one the daughters go to for wisdom.
That's good.
I'm not thumping anything over anybody's head, but it's very clear through the activities, whether they're with the grandparents or the parents' family, is important. And Donna, you can see it in her art. She captured it, and just beautifully. Just very. It's a simple joy, and I think, and to me, that shows the spiritual part of it, which I would say God in my life and yours. There's more that you can do with that with our blogs, and in Betty's books, I've critiqued her. Novels is very prominent there, and it really goes back to your missionary trips, very filtered into your stories along with your research.
What I wanted to add, Kathy, is my motto is that your life is an adventure, and that God will see you through it. And my publisher is Cross Books, and so they did the back of this to help me out, you know, because they know the words better. But in it, Charlotte has. She finds an amulet, which is turns out to be Egyptian, and she hides it from her mother because her mother is a missionary and she doesn't think you should be having Lucky Charms. But it's all through the story how it affects what she thinks, and then it says that she finds out at the end if her amulet is truly a gift from God or merely a reminder that God is always with her. So no matter what happens in your life, that God is always
Very
with
present.
you. You know, and life is an adventure. You just think of it. Oh my gosh, what's he teaching me this time? It just, you know,
And it is.
And why?
And why? And can I learn this lesson more quickly than the last? I think one thing I reflect on in these is I wanted to honor my grandparents in the way that I feel their lives was honoring of God in the way they opened their home, and all my books, in agreement with Donna and my first illustrator, Kathleen Flanagan Cressa, say to God be the glory.
Yeah.
And that's the main. He created Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is the beautiful creation I write about, but it is the Creator my heart is intent on honoring. And I think all four of us have the same heart in that. And so for that, these works are labors of love, and they are a labor. It's like giving birth.
That's right.
For everything. Sometimes we go back to the drawing board.
Sometimes the pains are strong.
Yes, they are. But it's a calling I think we were called to. So it's also, I think, an act of obedience and learning to walk a step behind the one that's leading us.
Exactly.
And
Right, yeah.
it's a real blessing. I'd like you to finish up with, where we're going to close for the show, one word that describes you as a writer.
You go first, Sarah.
Thanks. I would say eclectic.
Eclectic. I like that. I love that, actually. Betty or Donna?
I would just say I like the adventure.
Adventure. And Donna?
Unfortunately, I have too much perfectionist in me.
Oh, thank you. And there we go. Welcome. Come back again next month, the fourth Wednesday. We would be overjoyed to have you with us. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.